To the United stand. Is it time to let Paul Pogba go? Jamie Carragher's come out and said that Woodward and Glazers are the problem, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not the cure. We'll also be talking about Haaland, Madison, and a few other things as well. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's win rate, all very, very relevant. But first of all, I just want to say it's Friday night, so we will be doing a bit more of a Q&A. Or if you're new to the United stand, Friday night's always a bit of a chilled out night. So I just want to say as well, cheers to everybody. Whatever you're drinking, whether it's tea, water, coffee, whatever, have a good Friday night and start your weekend with the United stand. And I just want to say on that as well, so much toxicity around Manchester United at the moment. It's water off a duck's back for me. I mean, it really is, because I've been here through Moyes, I've been here through Van Gaal, I've been here through Mourinho. So you're always going to get people who get very passionate about Manchester United Football Club. And there are some very passionate people out there at the moment. And my name gets quoted, rants, flex. And, you know, they're so inaccurate. They obviously don't watch the channel. But the reality is, like, rants is basically Ollie Out. I think rants is Ollie Out. Flex is very much Ollie in. And I'm probably somewhere in between at the moment. So we are covering all the angles, which makes me laugh that we're the negative stand, because actually we have call-ins, we have fan cams, we have the live comments, we have 3 different views there, we have everybody else. So we do cover everything, and we try to cover both sides, and everyone makes their opinion. But as an individual, I can't help how I feel about it, and everyone knows how I feel about it at the moment. But the reality is, there's no need to start getting aggressive with fellow United fans. We're Manchester United fans. We're all part of the family, and we're all passionate. And just because we've got different opinions, that's the main reason. That is the main reason this channel was set up all those years ago, was basically to give everybody a platform to discuss. You're not meant to agree; it's discuss. So cheers to everybody. I respect all your opinions, even if I don't agree with it. But let's get into it. Let's start off with Paul Pogba then. So, Paul Pogba, time to go. Is it time for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to let him go? Look, first of all, I'm going to give you my feelings about Pogba. And I just feel that he's not a Manchester United player anyway. This is my personal opinion. Obviously, he is. He's part of our squad. But I feel as if he's not part of this journey anyway. And that's just a personal thing. I know a lot of that's to do with injury. But even when he's on the pitch, and I think over the last 3 years, he's probably the same as what he's been for the last few weeks. But he just doesn't feel part of Manchester United. We're being fed all this future talk, all this vision, all this transition. And the reality is, it's inevitable that Paul Pogba will be sold. Absolutely inevitable. He'll be gone next summer. So for me, it's not about being Paul Pogba out, because everybody knows I like Paul Pogba. I think Paul Pogba's one of those few midfielders that I remember saying this 3 years ago when we signed Pogba. I'm old enough to remember Paul Gascoigne, and for a lot of you won't be old enough. For those who are old enough, you'll understand what I'm about to say here. Gascoigne was basically a midfielder. He wasn't a number 10. He wasn't an attacking midfielder. You could play him in your midfield. And what Gascoigne did from midfield is take people on and drive the ball forward with it at his feet. And when he got past the player, someone's got to come to him, create spaces. Very, very good at it. Paul Pogba was one of the only midfielders in world football who can do that. Zidane was very good at it as well. Although he was probably a bit more of an attacking midfielder, to be honest. But Pogba's got that in his locker, and we're playing him as a CDM. It's ridiculous. We don't get the best out of Paul Pogba. We're only using 50% of his capabilities. But I do feel that Pogba is sort of on the way out, if that makes sense. And sort of maybe even he's checked out anyway. He doesn't want to be here. So for me, it's not about... I'm not one of these people who just goes and, I saw Adam's fan cam the other night and he was like, Pogba's dreadful, this, that and the other. I'm sort of past all that. There's no point in saying Pogba's dreadful. I said this at the start of the season. All those Pogba haters, what is the point? The club forced him to stay. So what is your actual message if on Monday night Pogba plays and he plays badly and everyone goes, Pogba's a disgrace? Whoa. What's the point in that? Just actually think for a moment. He doesn't want to be here, and the board forced him to stay. So if Pogba has a bad performance on Monday, realistically, you should be moaning at the board, because he wanted to go and the board forced him to stay. And the board came out with that line the other night about, we don't want to sign players that are commercially viable. We want players that are part of the vision. But Pogba's commercially viable, and he's not part of the vision. You forced Paul Pogba to stay this summer, and I don't really understand why. If you have a long-term plan, you keep a player that doesn't want to be here and will not sign a new contract and probably goes in a year's time anyway. It was laziness from United to keep him. And as I've said many a times, I actually agree with Pogba and his reasons for going. There's no future at Manchester United for him. He's been here 3 years. There is no vision. It's just talk. We're not going to be anywhere near a title for 3 or 4 years. Even the club is saying that, by which time Paul Pogba will be 30. Why should Paul Pogba waste his career on a risk that United might be title challengers in 3 years? He'll be 29. So Pogba can go in 3 months in January to Real Madrid or wherever and be fighting for a title and a Champions League. So why wouldn't he go? There's talk of him going in January. I don't think he will. But I do think Manchester United should be selling Paul Pogba. And I want to get into that for the first few minutes. And the reason I think that they should do it is because I saw something this morning. I think it's a load of nonsense, but let's pretend it's true, that United are willing to double his wages. Double his wages to keep a player who doesn't want to be here. What if he signed? What if he actually signed? And I was sat there thinking, this is wrong on 2 points. One, why would you double somebody's wages, which will be astronomical for the club, when he doesn't want to be here and then he suddenly signs? That's stupid. He's only staying for the money. You don't want a player like that anyway. And the second thing is, why would you spend so much money on a player that over the last 3 years hasn't actually been consistently that good? So you blow more money on a player to keep him, and he hasn't been that good. He's been 50-50 player for me, Pogba. When actually that money should have gone on players around him. So you blow most of your budget keeping Paul Pogba, and the problem still remains that he hasn't got good enough players around him. The best thing to do is sell Pogba, who doesn't want to be here, and build a team with the money that you've got from not giving Pogba his wages and the fee you get from Pogba. You're talking 200 million there. That's the best thing for Manchester United. That's the best thing for Paul Pogba. I really do think that. And I also think this season we will see a lot of little niggling injuries for Paul Pogba, because Pogba don't want to be here. As I say, I respect that. And also, he's got the Euros at the end of the season. He loves playing for France. So it's gonna be quite a quick season for Pogba. If international breaks, he's got 2 of them till November. Another one in March. Christmas is here. He's got a new baby. He doesn't mind being at Manchester. Take it easy. Play in the Euros, get your move. Big summer next year. And he's still only 27. So, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think United... I think the whole Pogba thing, for me, I even said it in the summer, is just... It's puzzling. I think they ran out of time. Does Leo Man United says, don't think this would have happened with Pochettino. We keep saying we don't need old players and legends at the club, but we get Ollie. I just think Manchester United ran out of time this summer. I want to get a few comments on Paul Pogba. Let's see if we can get something. Mohamed Sawabi says, why can't you or Flex be at a press conference? Can you guys try to be there in the name of the fans? Yeah, look, we've asked loads of times, and we won't get access. And I think this is partly to do with what Ollie said in his press conference this morning, that he gets loads of positivity face to face, and it's easy to be negative when you're hiding on social media. And I said, look, I suppose what we say sometimes, all of us can be deemed negative, but we ain't hiding. I'd love to get a face-to-face with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'd be very respectful. I wouldn't be like shouting at him. He doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve negativity in that sense. But I would sit there and say, look, Ollie, thanks for the opportunity. This is what I genuinely would like some answers for. Can you give us the answers to that? But that would never happen. The club won't let that happen. Ollie wouldn't let that happen to himself either. So actually, if we're flipping it round, it's not the social media fans that are cowards. It's Manchester United Football Club and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because they would not expose themselves to difficult questions. And the difficult question, if I could ask it, would be, why didn't we get any midfielders in the summer? I'd love that question to be answered. Why did we not get any midfield? That would be my number one question if I could ask Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Why didn't we buy any midfielders in the summer when Herrera was really important to us and left? I'd love to see how he would answer that, but you'd never get it. You'd never be allowed to answer that question, and because you can't answer that question, you know what the answer is, don't you? You know what the answer is. There's two possible answers. One, the club didn't deliver what he wanted, or two, even worse, he said we were all right without them. One's a sackable offence, one's on the board. Any update on new ownership? I'm still Ollie in, but the way we've been playing is making me lose sight in the vision. I'd rather play FIFA, says Herberto Zamano. Mark, agreed the board is to blame, but isn't Pogba obligated to play at least half decent? What happened to professionalism, says Chowdhury. I don't agree with that. This is not a Pogba witch hunt for me. I said at the start of the season, Pogba's our most important player. Our season rests in the hands of Paul Pogba. I don't think Pogba's down tools. I think Pogba is a fantastic human being. I think he's a professional. I don't think he wants to be here, but I think he'll give 100%. The problem is with Paul Pogba, he's been here for 3 years, and as United fans, we know he's massively inconsistent. He can be brilliant, he can be bad. That's Pogba, and I think a lot of that's to do with himself, but a lot of it's to do with the players he's had around him as well. So Pogba's never going to do what we thought he was going to do when we bought him. So I don't blame Pogba for that. I think he will give his best. But the honest answer is, if you want to leave and you're forced to stay somewhere and you believe you're justified... I mean, I always say this, Lukaku got his move and acted like a complete arsehole last season, moaning all the time. Pogba's been very professional, doesn't get his move. So if I was Paul Pogba, I'd be like, I want to play football, but if I had a little bit of a niggle, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. But that's just me. And also, let's not forget, a lot of people said Paul Pogba had an injury and that's why he didn't take a penalty. So Paul Pogba's playing 90 minutes for Manchester United. In the 90th minute, he's running around fine. The whistle blows and suddenly he can't take a penalty, which is literally strolling up to a football and kicking it in. No, he wasn't injured at the end of that game. He could have took a penalty. Now, a couple of weeks ago, him and Rashford were fighting on the pitch, basically, to take the penalty. In a shootout where it could have been embarrassing, Pogba's not even in our top 5 penalty takers. So I don't think the situation with Pogba and United's that good anyway, which adds... but I don't want to go down that road because we've got enough problems. But the reality is, as I was going to say, we spoke about this back in May, and I think the incompetence of the board, and we've heard it this week as well, that they're probably not going to appoint a director of football because they're happy with what's going on. They think what they're doing is working. And I mean, tonight's not the night to get annoyed because, we're relaxing, it's the weekend, but that was not a good summer transfer window. But the board, Glazers, Woodward, they all think it was a good transfer window, and that's why they're not going to get a director of football. But what did we say in May before the transfer window started? We sat there, all of us, and said they can't do what they need to get done in this summer. You can't sell 5 players and bring 5 players in with Woodward and whoever else is involved, because as we know, it takes us about a month to do every business. We knew we were in for Harry Maguire at the start of July, didn't sign him till the end of July. We knew we were in for Wan-Bissaka at the start of June, didn't sign him till the end of June. We don't have people who are good at transfers. So everybody who thinks next summer we're going to sell Pogba and we're going to sign 2 midfielders, an attacker, Jadon Sancho, it's not going to happen. I predict next summer most of Woodward's time next summer will be selling Paul Pogba. And remember, it's the Euros next year as well. So Pogba's actually not going to be able to be sold until mid-July because France will probably do quite well. So I predict next summer's going to be even worse than last summer. But you've got everyone going, give Ollie time. He needs another transfer window. He'll get his midfielders. I think next summer for United, it's all about selling Pogba. And I wouldn't be surprised if we only brought 1 in, even though we'll need 3 if Pogba goes. 1 for Herrera, 1 for Laney, and then maybe 1 or 2 for Pogba. So I just think that it's just another example of how bad the summer was. And Pogba, unfortunately, paid the price of that because there was just no time for us to do a deal. Sean Turner says, you really think the Glazers will give Ollie all the money they get for Pogba? No chance, but we should never keep a player who wants to leave. Well, I think we've just covered that, Sean, haven't we? I think next summer, Manchester United will be spending most of their time selling Paul Pogba because it's such a big deal. Any update on new ownership? We've read that one. I've got no idea about new ownership. I don't necessarily think that that will happen. Casper Summers talking about Bruno Fernandez. How easy was that deal to be done? I think I will always... I nearly broke out into bloody Whitney Houston then. I will always love you, Bruno Fernandez. I will always love you, Bruno Fernandez. You should have been the signing last summer. It really... I don't think I'll ever get over Bruno Fernandez not coming to United because I just know he would have been perfect. I mean, I thought missing out on Perisic, and I know Perisic was a divider a couple of years ago, but I watch a lot of Italian football. Perisic would have been a great player for United 2 years ago. He's too old now, but Perisic at United 2 years ago when Mourinho wanted him, I think he might have kept Mourinho in a job. I think he was, we've never had a winger who can put crosses in, and Perisic could do it from both sides. And I was really disappointed we didn't get him, but then my disappointment on Bruno Fernandez just goes to a whole other level. He would have been so good, and he's a leader as well. He's captain of that club. He's a leader. He's got loads of goals in him. He's still in his mid-20s. He's ready for that step up. He wants to play in the Premier League. He was available for about 55 million quid. It was just such an easy deal to do, and the only people that actually sort of put a bid in apparently was Spurs. We walked away from it. I mean, and we spent all season scouting him, and going into the summer he was the priority signing. Again, that would be question 2. He wouldn't give me an honest answer though. Why didn't we sign Bruno Fernandes? Actually home in on that. You know what his answer would be? Well, I don't want to talk about individual players, but whether you want to believe United were in for him or not, I know the truth. But the reality is, even if you don't believe we were in for Bruno Fernandes, the reality is we should have been. We absolutely should have been. You cannot go into a summer with Herrera leaving, and come out with no midfielders when people like Bruno Fernandez and Tielemans were available. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. But I don't think we'll sign Bruno Fernandez now. I think that ship has sailed. I think somebody more competent, like Chelsea now, they haven't got a transfer ban, might go and get him, or Liverpool. We won't be getting him now. But what a signing he would have been. What a good signing he would have been. Mark... how United don't have proper people buying and selling players that includes Woodward, useless, just appoint a director of football, says Stephen Diak. Should have sold him and bought Savic and Bruno instead of forcing Pogba to stay and fake his injury, says Arthur36 Morgan Gaming. I would have done that. I would have let Pogba go because I think he deserves to go, and I would have brought Bruno and Milinkovic in, or Bruno and Tielemans in. It would have been good. I mean, look, Michael Jones says Madison would be a good buy. I spoke to Flex about this the other day, and look, he really wants Madison. I can tell you there are a lot of rumours around James Madison that he desperately wants to come to Manchester United, and Manchester United are interested. You know, there's a few people claiming they're in the know about it, but actually, in the football industry, it's pretty well known that James Madison wants to come to United, and United are very interested in him. He never stops talking about United, Madison, does he? So there's a good chance that that will happen, especially because he's English, and we know that Ollie seems to have this obsession with British players. I like James Madison, but I was saying this to Flex the other day when we were having a chat. If we sell Pogba and bring Madison in, I'm really worried. James Madison's a flair player. He's not a leader. He'd come to the club and he'd be in awe of the club like Harry Maguire is, and it would take him time to adjust. He isn't a leader. I think United, I'd like James Madison to come to the club, but what United desperately need is some personalities at the football club. They need some leadership at the football club, and I think James Madison would be a good signing, but the priority should be some proper leaders, like leaders to come into the team, because we're lacking that. So I do like Madison, but I think people who think, if we buy Madison and Pogba goes, we're fine. The midfield's still ridiculously weak. I think we desperately need in that midfield a leader, and we haven't got anybody who can do that job. Mark, thoughts on Ollie getting bullied by those Arsenal fans recording him? He looked like he was about to cry. I don't think the players respect him, says the Infiltrator 101. Well, I didn't like that video, and I said it at the time. I don't like that. I think it was bullying, and it made me feel sorry for Ollie, but I don't think he needs my pity. I like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I just don't think he's good enough. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Anno Palipan says, Mark, I didn't mean you to start a revolution. I just felt as fans we need to react, because otherwise what's the difference between Glazers and us? Today again, Ollie told fans give positive feedback about the club and him. He doesn't know what fans feel. Well, you feel what you want to feel, Anu, don't you? You feel what you want to feel, and you stick to your guns on that. That's what I would say. You've got an opinion, and you should stick by it. Will never stop saying this. I don't have the solution to remove the Glazers, Woodward, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Paul Pogba, whoever. I don't have the solution to that, because I know how the United fan base works, and it's very, very divided. So the fans will never overthrow the Glazers, I don't believe. I don't believe that will ever happen, unfortunately. And, I know a lot of people would like to hear different, but I don't. Joe and Daniel says, do you think any part of the 400 million from the sale of the shares will be used in January? The board might start giving a crap about not qualifying for Champions League, given the financial implications of the Adidas deal. Joe and Daniel. I mean, look, the thing about the January transfer window is that ideally, welcome to Marcus Herbert, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Ideally, the January transfer window would be a good time to buy players, because we're not going to sell anybody in January like Pogba or anything, so you should use it. My issue with the January transfer window is it's an admission of failure in the transfer window that's just gone. The January transfer window is a desperate time to sign players, because the only decent players you're going to get are players that are out of contract in the summer. So we got Alexis Sanchez, that's why we got him then. The only players I can think that are out of contract in January in the summer is Eriksen. And Eriksen, to me, I mean, look, is he doing well for Spurs at the moment? He's massively inconsistent. He can't beat the first man on a corner, so he might not be the solution to our problems. What player are you going to get in January? You're not going to get a James Madison in January, I don't think. It's possible, but you're not going to get good players in January, I don't think, because they're going to be, if they're good players, the high chance is that they're at good clubs who've got something to play for in January, and we'll sell him in the summer. So I'm not massively confident about January at the moment. I think we probably will sign somebody, but I'm leaning towards it might be a Mandzukic, which I think's a bad buy for United, to be honest. But I think we will sign people in January. My worry is about who it will be. If we went and got Havertz from, is it Leverkusen or someone like that, I'd be happy with that, because there's a player that can become something good. But if it's a Mandzukic, I'm like, God, that's just a desperation signing, to be honest with you. Sean Turner says, what are your thoughts on Ollie playing Pogba for 90 minutes when he should have come on for the last 20 minutes, Max? Bad management, says Sean. Well, yeah, it's, I mean, on the face of it, I've got to be honest, it does feel like Paul Pogba picked up an injury, having come back from an injury, because we overplayed him against Rochdale. It's laughable when you read that sentence out. Pogba's been out for key games. We bring him back against Rochdale to get a bit of game time. We play him for 90 minutes, he gets injured, and then he misses the Arsenal game. I mean, against Rochdale. In an ideal world, I think Paul Pogba would have only played for about half an hour against Rochdale, but the reality is we were basically in a very even game with a League Two side that probably will get relegated, and we had to keep Paul Pogba, the World Cup player, on for 90 minutes. It shows you how desperate Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's position at Manchester United is, that he needs to keep Paul Pogba and risk him for 90 minutes. And it's backfired a bit, because Pogba's got a little bit of a knock again. But I think Pogba's going to have a lot of knocks this season. I do. The cynic in me thinks, he's not happy with the club. Some would say you can't blame him. And I think he'll have a lot of knocks this year. Which again compounds how stupid the board have been in keeping a player, one, who doesn't want to be here, and two, who is massively important to our season. Revan says, Mark, if Pogba is not fit, Fred has to play on Monday. If Pogba's not fit, Matic will play on Monday, I think. Lincoln Jack Donnelly says, coaches I would go for if Ollie is sacked. Eddie Howe. Oh, that's the only name on my list. My bad. And Jordan Such says, Mark, given the time it takes United to do deals, given the Euros are on next summer, do you see next summer as being more frustrating than the one just gone? Jordan, I don't want to depress myself or anybody else, but because I hadn't given it any thought. But when we were talking about Pogba a minute ago, I actually predict next summer will be crap. Already, you can see it. We will not do any business, really, before the Euros. The Euros won't really finish until the start of July, by which time we'll go on tour to America. I don't think... I'll be amazed if we sign more than 3 players next summer. And I think, again, next summer, even now in September, I know that we need 5 players. Because we need 2 midfielders, a right winger, a forward, and, 4, and maybe a left back. And maybe another forward. So we need four or 5 players next summer, and I don't think we'll get any more than 3. And this is the long road we're on, isn't it? I mean, but let's just talk about this for a moment. Lord Luke Midget says, no, he doesn't. Power Ranger says, Ollie. Well, look, I don't know who you support, Power Ranger. Maybe you are a United fan, maybe you're a Liverpool fan. But if I was a Liverpool fan at the moment, or an Arsenal fan, or a Man City fan, I would be revelling in United's... downfall, because especially Liverpool, they've not won a title in 30 years. They've been in our shadow for most of that time. They've seen us overtake them as Premier League title holders or league title holders. They're on the rise and we're on the sink, and we are basically looking like we're going to get worse and worse and worse. There's a very real chance that we'll be a mid-table club in October, which is scary, isn't it? And can we come back from that? But Jamie Carragher is classed as a Liverpool legend, I think, and what he said today is that the Glazers and Woodward are a problem, but Ollie's not the cure. And that's quite a brave thing for Jamie Carragher to say, because as a Liverpool fan, he probably would love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to stay. And, we had it with Mourinho. Liverpool fans were desperate for Mourinho to stay because they knew he was a failure and he was going to keep failing. But so for Jamie Carragher to come out and say that, I think it's quite honest at a time when we're not getting a lot of honesty. And I don't really like to big up a Scouser for obvious reasons, because they're our biggest rivals, but he's probably one of the only people talking sense in the punditry world at the moment. I mean, Roy Keane goes in on the players, I agree with that, but Scholesy, Gary Neville, Rio, most of the United pundits, they won't say anything. None of them will say anything. And I know why. A lot of those players are from the dressing room at a time where everything was kept in-house and you stayed together, and that's why they were successful. But you do need a balanced view. You do need the other side. As I say, I feel that Rance is basically Ollie out. He just doesn't want to say it. He certainly doesn't think Ollie will turn it around. And it's good to have that on this channel, whether you agree with it or not. At least then we're bouncing off each other. And we filmed some stuff with AFTV today, which is going to go up over the weekend. And there's a major fallout between Flex and Rant. I mean, they're mates, but their opinions, they're going head to head. Ollie versus Solskjaer. So a Solskjaer in and Solskjaer out. So watch out for that. It's coming out tomorrow. But, for Carragher to say Ollie's not the cure, a lot of people I notice now are starting to say this. They're actually, like Saeed on the fan cams, a few others as well, they're actually ready to say Ollie out or Ollie ain't turning this around. And that's sad. That is sad. I mean, I'm not at that point yet, and I was quite late with Mourinho, and a lot of people criticised me for that. I don't feel I'm even close to being Ollie out yet. I don't even think I'm Ollie out if we lose to Arsenal on Monday. But a lot of people are starting to either be that, or he's not going to be the problem. He's not going to solve the problem. He might survive the season, but long term he's not the problem. He's not the solution, and that's what Carragher's saying. And I don't know how many. What do you? I wanted to bring that up. I mean, please do smash a like on the video. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes. But I really want to delve into this for a bit because I want to know, like, where are you at the moment? I mean, you can say Ollie out, you can say Ollie in, but it would be good if you could just add a few more words and say, you know, where you're at. Because are you Ollie in, you want him to do well, but honestly he's not going to do well? Are you Ollie in, you really do believe he will turn it around? Are you Ollie out and he never should have got the first job in the first place? Are you on the fence? Where are you at with it? Ollie was meant to be Zidane too, which he was briefly, says PM. I do agree with that. I mean, look, although Ollie would probably deny it in public, I think he is. I think he's. Well, look, even Stevie Wonder can see that he's changed his tactics and his philosophy from the first 3 months. And as I said this morning, you know, you listen to the quotes from the press conference today where he's saying you can lose any game in the Premier League, it's fine margins. That's the sort of talk of a Bournemouth manager. You know, Bournemouth can win any game and lose any game. A Manchester United manager should not be saying that. It's fine margins. You can win any game and you can lose any game. Pep Guardiola tomorrow and Liverpool managers tomorrow and Spurs manager tomorrow against Southampton. You know, of course they'll know, you know, a miracle might happen and they might lose. But the reality is they're not expecting to lose. They're not saying there's fine margins. They're expecting to win, and that's what we should be doing. But we rewind back to January and December when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer first came into the club, and he was full of that bravado. You know, Manchester. I remember it before the Cardiff game, and I wish I'd found the quote. And I remember him saying, well, something along the lines of, "We're Manchester United. We should go into every game expecting to win." And he was talking the talk. And I tell you what, why has that changed? Why has that changed? Is it because he's scared? Because when he first came in, he had nothing to lose. He had nothing to lose, and he was full of the right words. This is Manchester United, want to play the right way. And we did. And the players responded to that. And then 8 months later, he's talking about fine margins. Any game can be lost. We're going in the right direction. It's like a different man. And the players aren't responding to that. So it's weird how... It's not weird, actually. Caretaker managers can come in and have a big bounce. But now he's got the job. He's nothing like the man who got the job. It's amazing. His whole mantra, his whole positivity, his whole message has changed completely. And you sort of feel like... You do sort of feel cheated in a way, because the manager... I remember being at Old Trafford after that Palace Southampton game when we won 3-2. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. We played crap, but we won 3-2. And you felt like, we're building something here. And it was about 50 people around Flex, and we're all going, Ollie's at the wheel. It was great. We felt we were building something. And I do feel a bit of anger towards Ollie and the Manchester United Football Club, because, you know, it's not hate. It's not an agenda. It's a disappointment. It's like you sold us this dream and you delivered it, and now you've turned your back on it. Like, it's the same. You're the same manager with most of the same players, and we're nothing like that anymore. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Said Ollie wasn't the man from the start. Second chat, says Stephen B. Hardy, and Dazu W, I'm now Ollie out. The comments today and in other press don't help him. He keeps playing 2 CDMs. The more I want him out. Ali Pan says, if we finish just 6th and Ollie is still there, he is not a renowned manager yet. And if we lose Pogba, do you think we can attract any top players or prospects? Who would have the guts to join Manchester United's proposed prospect? Well, people like James Madison will come to Manchester United in the summer, regardless of whether Pogba goes or not. People like Jadon Sancho won't come to Manchester United unless we're in the Champions League. So you're going to get more Harry Maguires and Wan-Bissakas who are going from a club that's not as big as Manchester United to Manchester United. You will always get those sort of players, but we won't be able to bring in the Jadon Sanchos who are actually really good players and don't want to take a step down. Go to Patrick Oswi says the board did not help him, but I don't think he has showed enough to be the manager we need. I'm sorry, but I am Ollie out at the moment. It's a big statement. I think each to their own. Ollie out, no experienced players, says Stormtrooper, so at least we need an experienced manager. Roy Keane said these players threw Mourinho under the bus and they will do the same to Ollie, says Fiona. Yep, he did. We are winning our last couple of games. I don't think we should sack Ollie yet, says your boy. And George Ramos says it's no surprise Pogba is in contract negotiations. It happened with De Gea and it happened with Rooney. Expectations should definitely be lowered, Mark. No point in moaning. And Stephen Dowd says, I feel the assistant coaching staff and the training needs changing as soon as possible, but the mentality needs to change, and that starts with Ollie. I want to come back to that. It's a good point. And Joe and Daniel says, if we don't start seeing attacking football by January, similar to his first 3 months, I would be out, Ollie out, irrespective of results. As United fans, we would be happy grinding out 1-0 wins, playing ugly football. And Nobby Zesty says, what do you think of 4-4-2, Martial and Greenwood up top, Rashford on the right and James on the left? We get hammered, mate. You can't play two midfielders with our midfield. I don't think many clubs can just play two midfielders anyway. And Lincoln Jack Donomy says, does anyone think that whatever Ollie is saying in presses and post-match interviews is genuine? If there's anyone that knows how crap we are and has the power to say it is the manager. I get that. I do get that. But I still think there's still things that he shouldn't be saying. He's lowering expectations way too low. He doesn't need to do that. Going back to what George Ramos says about expectations should be lowered, no point in moaning. Each their own with that though, George, isn't it? Let's be honest. I think everyone, as I've said, I will continue to moan with the tactics I see because I don't enjoy what I'm seeing. And like Stephen Dowd said about the coaching and etc. I feel that I've got a good memory of recent history at Manchester United. I remember what was going on a year ago with Mourinho. And, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's win percentage is 51%. He's been here 8 months now, and his win percentage is 51%. That's worse than David Moyes, and it's worse than Van Gaal. If, at the moment, we've got 8 points after 6 games, Jose Mourinho, after 8 games, played the 8th game was the Newcastle game, and everyone wanted him to be sacked, and he had 13 points after 8 games. If Ollie even beats Newcastle and Arsenal, which he won't, he'll only have 14 points. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to have less points after 8 games than Mourinho had when everyone was demanding he got the sack a year ago. On top of that, the style of football that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is playing is very similar to Jose Mourinho. And on top of that, if Jose Mourinho was coming out with the quotes that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is coming out with at the moment about lowering expectations, any game can be lost, people would be going mad. Ollie is protected because he's a legend of the club and everybody loves him. But what he's doing is not much different to what Mourinho was doing a year ago in relation to what he's saying in press conferences and what he's doing on the pitch. If you go back a year ago, if you're brave enough to do it, go and watch some of our videos. Jose Mourinho press conference reactions, say they're all on the United stand. Go back to the press conferences from last year, reactions from games like West Ham and things like that, and see what he's saying. And they're very similar to what Ollie's saying now. Lowered expectations and poor results on the pitch, playing a bad brand of football. There's not a lot of difference there. So when George talks about patience and stopping moaning, it's very different. It's very difficult because I think everybody wants to be positive and everyone wants to stop moaning. But we are Manchester United. We are going to be in the mid-table after Arsenal, unless we win, which a lot of people don't think we will. Although I don't think we'll win. I think we'll draw. And the vision they go on about, I personally can't see the vision. I don't see anything to be excited about. Apart from Mason Greenwood, I don't see anything to be excited about. I don't see what our best midfield is. I don't see that form. All I see, as I said this morning, is a team that's going out trying to keep clean sheets and nick a goal. That's why we've spent money on the back four. That's why we've given De Gea a new contract, and that's why we're playing 2 centre defensive midfielders. We are trying to get a clean sheet because that's a platform that you won't lose from and then nick a goal. It's not, as the previous commenters say, it's not going to be good football, is it? It's not going to be good to watch. Joe and Dan, and will he change that? At what point will he go, imagine we do start to grind out loads of 1-0s and we get ourselves to 5th in the league and it's like February and we've been bored to death but we're winning games. Will he ever change? This is the slippery slope, and these are the questions. This is how my brain works, because I'm like, well, he is definitely trying not to lose at the moment. He's definitely trying to keep clean sheets and then win games of football 1 or 2-0. And if he starts, either that's not going to work and he's going to get the sack, or if it does work, will he ever change then? Like, if you're a manager, you're grinding out your 1 and 2-0s and you're getting up to 5th. At what point would you go, right, let's go for it? Because you're getting the results anyway. So I'm sure that does make sense, and I hope it does, because I don't see the vision. Because if what he's doing becomes successful, why would he change that? We're still going to be defensively sound, trying to nick goals. The minute he tries to attack, you can't play with 2 CDMs. So then you're changing the way you play, and the defence might start to leak goals again. So this is what I mean. It's all right saying, oh, don't moan. Let's be patient. But I don't see the vision. And I keep going back to Chelsea and Lampard, and I see the vision there. Joe and Daniel says, if we don't start seeing attacking football by January, similar to his first 3 months. I've read that one, sorry. But yeah, so it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. I think this is why I was saying at the start, I think you've just got to hang in there as a United fan, and I think that's why the United stand works really well, because we get lots of opinions and lots of different people. And it's all based on passion, and everybody thinks that they're right. And there will be some United fans sat there tonight going, oh, I love Ollie, and let's just see what happens. I really do trust him. I think it's going to be fine, and that's great. That's great. But you'll have other people sat there going, why the bloody hell did we give him the job? He's not qualified. He's out of his depth. He's a club legend, and he's dragging his name through the blood. And I spoke to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were really upset. They said, look, I do not think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is good enough. But I'm absolutely distraught with the fact that he's going to end up tarnishing his status. I mean, this is a guy who scored that famous goal in Barcelona. He's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's a bloody legend. What he did is what our club's all about. And now he's managing our club, and he's clearly not good enough. And this, I mean, he said it's going to. The thing is, the board are backing him, and he was saying, but he's not good enough. So therefore, they're going to keep backing him. They're probably going to back him longer than Moyes and Van Gaal and Mourinho, which means fans will just get really pissed off with him because he's not good enough. And then that's going to destroy his reputation. And they were really distraught about it because I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and I don't want to see this happen. He's not good enough. They're not going to sack him for ages. And he's just going to end up pissing off the United fan base, who are pissed off already with the likes of Mourinho and Van Gaal and Moyes, who were nothing to do with this club. And now we've got somebody in charge who shouldn't be in charge, who's a bloody club legend, and he's going to end up with getting a load of flack. And they were really distraught about that. And I thought, you know what? I hope that doesn't happen, but it could happen. And again, I would blame the board for that. I would blame the board for that. If fans end up abusing Ollie to try and get him out because they're so pissed off, then I would blame the board for that. Because, Ollie loves this club. He's like me being manager or you being manager. Would you walk away? I wouldn't walk away. I'd try and be good. I'd be shit. And you'd all hate me. Probably do anyway, and yeah, but Ollie's not going to walk away from this. Why would he? He wants to be successful. He's a man who spent a lot of his time on the bench studying the game. He's patient. He'll wait for his chance, and he will wait for this to turn around. He ain't going to walk. So it's going to always be on the board's hand with Ollie. Will they sack him? Won't they sack him? And it's sad. It's really sad. I just hope he can turn it around. Arthur36 Morgan Gaming says do a poll. I've seen enough polls for Ollie in and Ollie out, and I think at the moment it's around 75% Ollie in and 25% Ollie out. Because I still think it's too early. Alma Salido says, Mark, admit it, you're Ollie out. I love this. I mean, why would I lie? Why would I? I mean, I don't know how long you've been watching the show, Ali, but I was Mourinho out after the West Ham game, and I was very late on that. And I had people saying to me for ages, just admit you're Mourinho out. And I'm not. And I'll tell you for one, because Flex said this to me the other day on the same phone call I was talking about before. He said, are you Ollie out, really? And I said, no, I'm not. And I'm not scratching my back because that's a sign of me lying. I have actually got an itchy back. But if I was Ollie out, I would tell you. But I'll tell you something about me, and a lot of you are probably the same. If you're asking me, do I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be successful? No, I don't. I don't think this is going to... I don't think this is... I think we could bounce back a bit. We could start getting good results, but ultimately, I don't think he's going to take us to a Premier League title or anywhere in the Champions League. I'm not even sure he'll get us back in the Champions League, but he's certainly not going to get us to be Premier League title winners. And I'd love to be wrong on that. So that's what I feel. But thinking that and being Ollie Out is totally different, because you could say, well, if you think that, then you should be Ollie Out. But then I would say, but that's only my opinion. Maybe he will turn it around. I'm not, I don't think he's going to turn it around. I'm not 100% he won't turn it around. And while there's a chance, let's give him a chance. But I'll be Ollie Out when the time is right. And I don't normally say I'm a manager out until I'm 100% sure that they're not going to turn it around. And at the moment, I don't think he's going to turn it around, but I'm not 100% sure, because I do think it's too early. And I was quite late with Mourinho as well. I tend not to jump until I'm 100% sure, because that's just what I'm like. Wan-Bissaka is a game closer, not a starter, says Ian Gafficky. Game closer, not a starter. I don't know. I don't really get that. I don't get. I mean, Leslie Lai is right. I think he says Mark's just pissed off with Ollie. He's not Ollie Out. Yeah, I am. And people who've been watching this long enough, and I know a lot of you would be the same. I'm a Manchester United fan, and I put Manchester United above anybody, any player. I said at the end of last season, I thought Martial was shit, and everybody knows I love Martial. Martial's my favourite player. He was crap last season, and I will do that. I don't care how much I like a player, how much I like a manager. The club is always the most important thing. And Ollie is a legend of the club, but at the moment he is annoying me a little bit, because, well, a lot actually. He's annoying me with his tactics. He's annoying me with what he's saying in press conferences, because I never want our club to be expectations lowered. And as I said before, if you go and listen to what Ollie was saying when he first came in, it's totally different to what he's saying now. And why? Why are you changing what you're saying from the start? You've been in charge at the start when you had the same set of players, so why are you changing it? It doesn't make any sense. Mark, we are a 500 team at best, at maybe 53% win rate, says J Johnson OSFG. Don't say it makes sense. Put the beer down, Mark, says Ryan Stevens. I don't know. A few videos ago you said that if you don't think he's going to be successful, then you are Ollie Out, says Emmanuel Moore. Yeah, you try. Look, what does it matter to you lot what I think? I've had this with Mourinho. What does it matter to you what I think? I've explained what I think. I don't think he's going to be successful, but at this moment in time, I don't feel ready to say Ollie Out. And whether I said a few games ago, if I don't think he's going to be successful, I'm going to be Ollie Out, but I'm not 100% he's not going to be successful. I don't think he's going to be successful. I think it's too early to say he's definitely not going to be successful. I don't think he is. I'll admit that. But I'm not 100%. And the reality is, do you realise how close we could be to this tipping point? Like, we've played 6 games, he's got 8 points. That's crap. He had a terrible end to last season. How many wins have we had in, there's some ridiculous stuff. His win ratio's crap. Since March, we've hardly won any games. Like, I 100% agree our form at the moment is relegation form. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I'm just not at that point where I would say Ollie Out yet. But we could be really close. Like, if we get humiliated on Monday, a lot of people will be Ollie Out. If we then go to Newcastle and lose, a lot more people will be Ollie Out, because then we've got Liverpool after the international break, where I think we're definitely going to lose. So that'll be 3 losses on the trot. We could have 8 points after 9 games. 8 points after 9 games. I'm sorry, I don't think there's a United manager ever that could survive that. But I think you'll find one that does, because I don't think the Glazers will sack him anyway. But that's a different conversation. But it starts on, wherever you are, whether you're Ollie in on the fence or Ollie Out. The reality is, if he can get a result on Monday, it will definitely help. And I feel there will be a result on Monday. I do. I think Pogba will play. I'm not so sure that Rashford and Martial will play, but I think we'll get a result. I expect a bounce back, I really do. Aaron Wan-Bissaka should be bought in to defend a lead, says Ian Gathica. You're having a laugh, Ian. I didn't know what you were on about before. Like, Aaron Wan-Bissaka's been absolutely brilliant this season for us. Like, what are you going to do? Play Ashley Young at right back? I mean, I don't know. Lee Bardsley says Ollie needs 2 seasons. Lee, I like that statement, but I also think it's very naive because it's fantasy world. Like, you're not going to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 2 seasons if he continues to average a point a game. We'll have 38 points at the end of the season. We might be relegated with 38 points. You're not going to give him 2 seasons. So everybody who says, I've heard it from Scholes, I've heard it from Gary Neville, I've heard it from Rio Ferdinand, they're all saying different types of the same thing. You've got to be patient and trust the process. And I'm sat here going, you're not being real though, are you, lads? You're not being real. At least we're being real on this channel. You lot are being real. You're actually talking it through and being realistic that, you know what, we could be very close to tipping point, because he's averaging 1.2 points a game. Like less than, 1.2 points a game. So 1.1 or whatever. If he averages that over the season, we'll be relegated. So everyone who says, oh, he needs 2 seasons, you're lying. Because you're not going to give him 2 seasons if we get relegated. He'll be gone. He'll be gone by Christmas, like people say. So everybody, I just feel everyone who's going, oh, it's going to take a couple of years, this, that and the other. I'm like, the biggest thing I would say from that is, get in the real world. This is not about next season. It's not about next year. It's about next month. We've got Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Norwich, Bournemouth. 15 points to play for. If he doesn't get any more than 8 points in that, he's in big trouble. So you can talk about 2 years, 1 year, whatever. We're in the real bit now. This is real life. The next 5 Premier League games, if he loses most of those, he's in massive trouble. And 2 years, oh, he needs more time, ain't going to wash it. Not from me. I'm not going to change what I'm talking about. Not from most of the live comments. But all these people who say he needs 2 years, if we're in the bottom half of the table in October, even they're going to change their mind. So I think at the moment we're right in the lion's den, and the lions are hungry, and it's how we deal with those lions, because the next month is huge. It's not about next summer, next season. It's not January transfer window. The next month is massive in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future, because the start to the season's been so bad, he can't afford another bad month. And if he does, this is going to get a lot worse than it is. He's got, if people want him to have 2 years, he's got to produce some results over the next month, and that's a fact. That is a fact. Kizali Chakrabarti says, I thought he was hired for making this club stable end of last season in a respectable way, not a long-term solution for sure. Should have brought in a better man. Jordan Such, did they give Ollie the permanent job to keep the fans happy, or because they genuinely thought he was the best out there? I know what I'm going for. I think that they gave him the job because they felt they had to give him the job, which they did, because if they hadn't given him the job, we all, and I'll put my hand up there, would have gone mad. We would have gone absolutely mad if he hadn't got the job. You know what it was like. Oh, he's at the wheel. We loved it, and we wanted him to get the job. So that's probably why they gave him the job. But as businessmen, I always say, as fans, we had every right to demand Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the job, because we're fans and we think with our heart. And it was a romantic appointment, and he was doing really well, and we were 100% right. But as fans, we are allowed to get things wrong. As businessmen, I do think they should have waited till the end of the season, and they should have had a long, hard think about it and gone, look, we need to do what's best for the club. I thought the appointment in March, as a fan, I was excited by it, but actually they should have waited till May. Because if they'd waited till May and we'd have had the bad end to the season, I don't think he would have appointed him. But I think if they'd waited till May, we wouldn't have had the bad end to the season. I think the good run would have continued and we would have got top 4. So I blame the board for that, really, because I think they didn't think like businessmen. They thought like fans. And, fans, we're just passionate people. But yeah, I've said this before, the board are protected by Solskjaer because we all love Solskjaer, and it keeps a lot of heat from the board. If this was Mourinho, I tell you what, if you think people are moaning now and toxic now, if this was Mourinho in the position... Well, we were there a year ago. Just go and look back a year ago. We were in exactly the same position, playing exactly the same football a year ago, and it was ridiculous at United. You know it was. It was only a year ago. Greg MacGyver says, I believe Ollie can build a title challenging side given a couple of seasons, but will inevitably sacked as we won't challenge with the squad he builds. I mean, Greg, that is... I think that's a romanticised view because, as I said, you might end up being proved right, but I don't think anybody can say he needs 2 seasons at the moment because, as I said, we've got 8 points from 6 games. If in 5 games' time he's got 9 points from bloody 13 games, he's gone. He's gone. 11 games. He might not be gone, but the pressure on him will be huge. And when the trouble is, when you get to October, if you're in the mid-table, you think back to Mourinho with Chelsea. They were in the bottom half of the table, and everyone was like, they're going to start getting out of there at some point, and they never did. And Mourinho got the sack in December, didn't he? Where you are in October, you pretty much know what you're going to be doing for the rest of the season. End of October, I think that's when you know if you're in a title race, if you're fighting for top 4, if you're in a relegation battle. So end of October, you're pretty... I mean, there's always exceptions to the rules, but by the end of October, you know what your season's all about. If United are mid-table or worse at the end of October, the players will know that, and they'll start playing that way. They'll start playing scared, they'll be panicky, and the pressure will be on. And I think that's where we'll end up being. Massive few games. And what are my predictions? I don't think we're going to lose to Arsenal. Whether that's a win or a draw, I don't know. I don't think we'll lose to Arsenal. I can see us beating Newcastle, so that's 4 points, let's say. Liverpool, I think, will lose. And then you've got Norwich and Bournemouth away. So I think one of those will be a draw, so that's 6 points. And I think we'll win another one. So I can see us taking 8 points from the next 5 games, which would put us on 16 points after 11 games, which will probably put us around 8th, which will be enough. We'll see. Avishek Chatterjee says, sad watching you go through the same cycle of hope and despair every year. Don't know Mark, don't know what United's future is. United till I die, but don't like how my club is getting killed off. Yeah, it is very sad, isn't it? And I think that football is a cycle. I think even the footballing week's a cycle, isn't it? I remember when Mourinho was sacked. I remember a month before Mourinho was sacked, and I knew we weren't getting top 4. When Mourinho was sacked, I basically knew in December that our season was over. Ollie came in and miraculously got us into a top 4 race, and we were positive. Then we saw it slip away, and we ended up with nothing. Then over the summer, you get hopeful that we're going to buy players in the midfield to give us a chance of top 4. We don't do it. You start the season badly, and you pretty much know it's going to take a miracle for us to get top 4. Then we start doing even worse than that, and you think, bloody hell, are we a mid-table club? Then you start to think, is this manager going to get sacked again? How low are we going to sink before that happens? And if he does, is the season over and it's only just started? There is a cycle, and then you've got the cycle in between games. You lose to West Ham last week. You're absolutely furious. You're fed up. Naturally, you get over it a little bit. You start to build a bit of positivity. Then there's another game. You play shit. You get through on penalties, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Then a couple of days later, you start to build because there's a big game against Arsenal. And it is a cycle, isn't it? I think at the moment, I'm sort of in that, relaxed situation. But I am worried. I'm very worried. And I am sad. I'm tired of the negativity and I'm tired of the toxicity. That's why, I see a lot of these bloody clout chasers on social media calling me out and this, that and the other. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. If you don't agree with my opinion, that's fine. But why don't you express it and let's see if people agree with you? Why do you need to slag off my opinion? At the end of the day, I ain't going to start having verbal arguments with people on social media. I'll have a debate with anybody in a respectful way, but I ain't going to start having debates with people who are calling me a clown and this, that and the other. You don't deserve my time, and I would say that to anybody, because if they're calling you names and stuff like that, they're a clout chaser or they're a clown, and I ain't interested in that. I'll have a chat with anybody if they actually are going to be respectful and sit down and have a chat. That's why me and Rance don't agree on loads of things. I thought what he said about Chong the other day was wrong, and he thinks what I've said about Chong's wrong. But there's respect there, and we get on as mates. And I'm more than happy to sit down with him and have it out. And him and Flex did today about Ollie in and Ollie out. So watch that tomorrow. Stephen Dowd says, do you feel the likes of Carrick and Ollie are hungry enough to be in control? They have both won everything possible playing. Thoughts on Eddie Howe? I think they're very hungry, Stephen. I think that Carrick and Ollie are massively hungry. I think they're very much motivated winners in their personalities. But that doesn't necessarily make them a coach. If passion and motivation to win made you a great coach, then Roy Keane would be the best coach in the world. Steve Bruce would be the best coach in the world. John Terry would be the best coach in the world. They're not. Coaching is not defined on what you like as a player. It isn't. There are exceptions to the rule, but it's not enough. Just because you were a great... People think Carrick's going to be a great manager because he read the game so well. I'm not convinced Michael Carrick will ever be a great manager. I just don't feel that he's got that in him. He might be a great coach, but the things don't correlate. Gary Neville, great leader on the pitch. analyse the game. You know, a player that didn't actually have natural born talent but worked on it. You know, up early. You see him on Twitter. He's up early every morning. That man is a workaholic, and he is motivated to get what he wants out of life, whether it's business, football, punditry, whatever. He should be a brilliant manager, and maybe he still could be, but he's tried it, and he, you know, by his own mouth failed, and he's not interested in going back into it. He'd be somebody you'd think would be perfect for it. You can't predict who's going to be a great manager. So I don't think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Michael Carrick lack motivation. They just might not be good enough, which we'll find out. And Pablo Mendes, who do we appoint if Ollie is sacked? Can we go through that again? I don't really want to do that. Even with Mourinho, I didn't start talking about candidates to replace him until the second international break, when it was inevitable he would be sacked at some point. I might go through some candidates in the second international break if we were to lose to Arsenal and Newcastle, but at the moment, I think it's disrespectful because I'm not on that page. And if you want to put it in the live comments, that's absolutely fine. Please do smash a like on the video, everyone. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes while we're live. I mean, all I would say is I've always liked Laurent Blanc. And I know people don't like that idea, but I always like Laurent Blanc because he's been at the club. He knows what Manchester United's all about. He knows what Barcelona's all about. He knows what winning major things are because he did it with France. At Bordeaux, he did a good job with youth, and he, you know, Bordeaux, he won the league with Bordeaux. He did a decent job with France and a decent job with PSG, and I think he is a good manager, but he would be a risk. He would be a risk, and the reality is what I said. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets the sack, I haven't got the answer, and I don't think any of you've got the answer, and I don't think anybody's suggestion will hold sway because we've tried the club legend, we've tried the best manager in the world, we've tried a respected manager who's seen it all, and we've tried the Premier League up-and-coming manager. So Moyes was the Premier League up-and-coming manager, Van Gaal was the really experienced, done-it-all manager, Mourinho was the best manager in the world, and Ollie's the club legend. You're only going to go and try different types of them. Yeah. But what I would say is, if we'd got Klopp or we'd got Pep, I think we'd be in a very different situation. And I think the board appointed the wrong managers. You can get, you know, the best manager in the world, that could have been Pep. And you'd get a totally different approach to it. Instead of going for Van Gaal, we could have got a Klopp in. You know, Pochettino. My only thing with Pochettino is I think he'd massively improve us, but he's slow to make changes. And is he a winner? Simeone, too defensive. But I'm glad I'm not at that point, to be honest, because I don't want to talk about replacements for Ollie because I think it's disrespectful and I don't want to be at that point yet. And I'm hopefully could still produce a miracle and turn it around. I mean, if he just went back to playing how he was in the first 3 months, that'd be enough for me to see a vision to get, you know, on board with. It's the style of football that's killing me at the moment. But yeah, I don't see a solution out there. I mean, part of me thinks go and get the Southampton manager. You know, go and do something like that. Go and get a visionary who plays high press, intensity attacking football, who's young enough to, you know, really build something. I think the disappointment with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is this. We are not seeing what they're saying they're doing. And I'll mention Chelsea again with Lampard. He's playing youth and he's playing a brand of football that's good to watch. Chelsea know whether Lampard's successful or not, they know what he's trying to do and it's going to be entertaining. If you're a Chelsea fan, happy days. You've got everything. You get your slippers on. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to enjoy this. At United, we're not really getting the youth. We're not really getting attacking football. We're just being told all the things that we're not getting. And it's not something to get excited about. So I just wish Ollie would go back to what he did in the first 3 months because that would be it for me. I would be patient then because I could see the vision. I just think the vision is very blurred at the moment. Ollie out if Liverpool smashes by more than 3 goals, says Chung Lee. Well, no, I think Liverpool are so far ahead of us. Why would you expect anything other than a loss? Anyway, we've spoken for ages. That went on for ages. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. If you didn't see the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference reaction this morning, go and give it a watch. Very interesting what he said. I did that this morning. Tomorrow, we've got some good content for you. We were filming with AFTV today, so we've got some good stuff filmed with them ahead of the Arsenal game, and it goes off in one of the videos, so watch out for those. I'm not sure what time they're going up yet, but they'll be going up tomorrow. Big weekend ahead as we move into this Arsenal game, and let's, you know, it's nice to have a Friday night chat and not be talking about Arsenal actually, and just have a general chat. But we'll move towards that obviously over the weekend. But let's not underestimate it. It's a massive game, and I tell you what, if we lose this game, it's not just losing a game of football to Arsenal. If we lose this game, we're going to get our arse handed on our plate for the next week on social media. You know from who, and you know what's going to happen. We will be bantered back into silence if we get beat on Monday night. It's a massive game. It's a massive game. Cobb Ross Aiken says, net spend of teams we have played: United 70 million, Chelsea 90 million, Wolves 75 million, Saints 22 million, Palace 20 million, Leicester 15 million, West Ham 60 million, Rochdale no. 1-2 of 7 in 90 minutes. Is that investment or coaches? Interesting point, Cobb. Interesting point. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all soon. I'll see you tomorrow.